Okay, so it's a welcome back practice. And these are the first 2 weeks of October that we're in. So we missed last week and then this week. So we're going to do some forward bending and some standing poses. And the theme today is just kind of studying certain poses that go together in a pair and seeing how the first pose we do kind of informs and shows up in the second pose that we do. So it's kind of an interesting way to practice, just kind of linking or pairing some poses and seeing how they connect. And we're going to warm up sufficiently since it's been we had a week off. And yeah, that's it. I'm excited to be back. Greece was great. And it's always good to come home. I love being home. So it's nice to come home to fall and back to good routines. So just take a moment to settle in. You can just adjust the seated position, making those adjustments to help you spread the sitting bones apart. Moving the flesh out from underneath is a good way to start that process. Making sure your feet are underneath your knees, that you're not relying on the back of the chair, so you're inviting some effort to sit up tall. Moving your shoulders to align with the hips. Usually for most of us, that means we have to move the shoulders back. Sometimes it's helpful to think about your shoulder blades moving into some back pockets, if you have pockets, or imagining you have pockets. Descending the shoulder blades is a nice way to help kind of start to align. And then placing your hands in a way that keeps the shoulders sitting back. Adjusting the skull. For most of us, again, that's moving the skull gently back, right above the spine. And then making sure the tilting of the chin is just a neutral setting. You're not lowering or lifting the chin. Sometimes it's helpful to think about moving from the chin up to the base of the skull to bring a little bit more alignment to the skull. And then finally, just softly close your eyes. And I always find it helpful to bring attention to the parts of the body, either meeting the floor or the chair. Just kind of connecting with the roots of the seated position. I also call these anchor points. And not only letting these points meet the chair or the floor, but start to take root and connect a little bit more deeply. So you sense you don't stop where those surfaces begin, that you sense you continue. And once you can tap into this sensation, then maybe starting to locate some lighter areas in your body, especially the spine, which is the central energy channel. So maybe using your inhale to invite the upward lift along the spine. You might even imagine there's a little bit of a balloon filling each time you breathe in between the sets of the vertebrae. And when you breathe out, those balloons don't deflate. And try to relax your jaw and your shoulders, which are part of the grounded, rooted, anchored body. They're just not touching the floor of the chair, but just releasing the shoulders and the jaw. Also the tongue, letting the tongue relax at the floor of the mouth. And keeping your eyes pointed down as well. Inviting softness to the abdomen, which for most of us, we keep a little bit tense. Some of this is cultural, some of this is emotional tension. So just taking a few inhales to relax the area of the abdomen. There should be some movement when you breathe. And all of this is helping align the mind with the body. So the body is one place, and oftentimes the mind is wandering off in quite another place. So just letting the mind arrive into the body. Using these tools. And as you're ready, we'll gently let the eyes blink open. And welcome, everyone. It's nice to be back with you. So we're going to start with a child's pose, just to help the nervous system kind of come to a quieter place. So you might use your arms and just rest your arms on your thighs and connect your chest to your arms. You might already be able to come chest to thighs, and you might have an in-between situation where you could replace your arms with a thinner prop like a blanket. So if you're kind of in between needing your arms and not needing your arms, you might just kind of wedge a blanket or throw a blanket over your thighs. But whatever you're doing, just let the head descend. Don't hold with the neck. Let the neck be passive. And try to think about your spine in one single curve, one single kind of letter C shaped curve. And each time you breathe in, you can kind of imagine the length of that curve, just kind of extending, stretching out a little bit. And sometimes we think about the sacrum tugging away from the skull here. We're just moving the sacrum away from the skull with each in-breath. And so we just talked about vertical length, but now also thinking about a certain kind of horizontal spreading happening across your back body. You might envision the breath kind of filling in the spaces of the back body, the intercostal muscles between the back ribs starting to grow more elastic. And now we're going to gently start to come up. And you might use your arms to help you pressing onto your thighs, or use your hands. And then just slide forward a little bit on your chair so you have some room to bring the arms behind you. We're going to grab the chair legs so that the arms are long, and we want the arms slightly behind the line of the shoulders. So this is kind of putting us into back bending action. And try to hold your chair in a way that your palms face forward and the backs of the hands and the knuckles face back. And then using the holding of the chair, you're helping your shoulder blades move toward your chest. And we're not trying to throw the back into a hyperextended kind of lumbar. So you want to keep that under control. We are trying to lift the chest and open right kind of behind the sternum. We want to feel that, but don't throw yourself into kind of a pushing into the abdomen or shortening the low back feeling. Try to have a nice long lumbar spine. Another thing to watch out for is that you're not pushing your whole head forward here. So keeping your head above your spine. And then thinking about your shoulder blades, not jamming them together. We don't want to jam the shoulder blades together. Think about coiling the shoulder blades. The inner edges of the shoulder blades are more forward to the front body than the outer edges. Just a few more breaths. You're not only lifting your chest, but you're spreading. So we have ways we extend, which is the vertical term, and then ways we expand, which is the horizontal term. We're trying to do both. Beautiful. And then after your inhale, just kind of soften out of it. And you can grab your chair with your left hand, just kind of underneath the chair, on the chair seat, whatever is more comfortable. And we'll raise the right arm. And remember, if you have a shoulder issue, you can always drop the elbow, not as high. On an exhale, lengthening, just creating a crescent shape with your spine. And when we think about or imagine what we can't see, so right now we can't see our spine, of course, we sharpen our sense of proprioception, which helps us balance. So it's a very good thing to imagine what you can't see when you're practicing, because this will help you with your balance, with your overall sense of balance. So just envision your spine as if you were standing behind yourself right now. And you can see that deepening C curvature in your mind's eye, of course. So on the inhales, you're lengthening, but on the exhales, you're inviting a little bit more depth. And then you're going to use an inhale to lift yourself up and out of it. And then you can grab the chair with your right hand and raise the left arm. Take an inhale on your exhale, lengthening to the right. So there'll be a point in when your body says stop, that's it. You're gonna not want to go any farther. You're gonna stay there and breathe and stay with it until the body gives you that inner cue that you're ready for more. Use some deep breaths. And imagine your spine here, how it looks. And treat the top of the head, the very top of the head, as kind of the exit point for the curvature of the spine. Even though we know our spine doesn't go that high, use the top of the head to kind of represent that curvature continuing on, so that we have a continuous line of energy. When you're ready, you're going to inhale and lift yourself out of it and bring the arm down. And so lastly, we'll do our twisting action for the spine. So we'll be turning to the right. You can raise the arms to begin and exhale. Left hand holds right thigh. Right hand is right behind your buttocks. So it's centered. It's not like a kickstand. It's not angled back. It's directly kind of in line with the shoulders. You can get it to be. This is so that we don't angle the torso. We want to keep the torso vertical. Start to rotate, and remember our twists build from lowest to highest. So we don't want to begin with the neck, because if we do that, we might lose out on depth lower in the spine. So just let the neck and head be very last, and just kind of observe. And again, you're imagining how that twist is starting to develop and climb the spine, wrapping itself around the spine, turning the rib cage as the spine more deeply twists. Every exhale, you kind of wring the breath out. Every inhale, restoring length, lifting through the top of the head. And now just taking the head and neck and turning and looking over the right shoulder. The chin is aligning above the right shoulder. And we're going to add in that secondary twist today. So you're going to keep your chin where it is. Keep the spine as deeply twisting as it is now. And now, without losing the depth of your twist, bring your chin above your left shoulder. And I want you to try to imagine and sense both twists at the same time. So this is how we kind of start to really develop the yoga state of mind, which is, yoga means union of opposites. And so you're holding twist number 1 in your attention, and now you're holding twist number 2 in your attention. And now realign your chin above your chest, so you have a neutral neck position. And you can inhale, just kind of lengthen your spine, come back to center. And then we'll go for side 2. So you can raise the arms on the in-breath. On the exhale, the right hand holds the left thigh. The left hand is right next to your buttocks, right behind you. Just start to gently turn. Keep your chin really neutral, right above the sternum for now. And the more you can press that right hand against your thigh, you're going to help bring those right side ribs around, which they do get a little caught kind of back there. They get a little stuck. So that pressure of your hand is going to help bring those side ribs out of the shadows. And now let's turn the head so we're aligning the chin as best we can above the left shoulder. And now just kind of sense how deep you've brought this twist already. And you're going to maintain that depth and slowly turn your head and just align your chin as well as you can above the right shoulder. And just see if you can hold the initial primary twist kind of in your attention, but now also this twist we have in the opposite direction with the neck, the cervical spine. Good, you guys look great. On an in-breath, just kind of floating the chin back above the chest. And again, on an in-breath, lifting, kind of floating, keeping the spine tall, coming out of it, back to center. Good. So we're gonna stand up now. And we'll work with a couple continued warm-ups with the seat of the chair. We're gonna do our downward facing dog with the seat of the chair. You can hold on to the edge of the chair seat, the edges, the front edges with your hands, and just start to walk back. Make sure your feet are hip distance apart and that your second toes are in alignment with your heels. And again, there's always just a starting point in the body, and we want to honor that. So it might not be your deepest version that you've ever experienced, but we have to honor how we show up, which always changes. It's a moving target based on lifestyle and other things. So just accepting that initial edge. Let your head just kind of passively fall through the space of the arms eventually. Try to create balanced weight bearing patterns in your feet. Do your best to more fully extend your legs, even if you have to keep your knees bent. And try to breathe deeply. You might eventually be able to walk a little bit farther back. You might be able to start to work into a straighter leg. We're going to stay just about 3 more breaths. Now, as you're ready, you're going to just kind of pour some weight into your hands so that you can start to move your feet back toward the chair. We're going to come into standing forward bend. So you're going to have your feet really close to the chair legs. Your feet are still hip distance apart. And then you're going to lower yourself toward the chair, either by bending the elbows or putting the forearms down. And then just again, let your head release down. And we're working towards straight legs, but again, honoring where you need to be. You might notice after a little while, you're able to come a little lower. Okay, we're going to come up now. So try to bend your knees a little bit. Take your hands to the chair seat if they aren't already there. And don't roll up. Grip your stomach muscles toward your spine. Try to come up using the abdomen to support the spine. Rolling up can be really hard, not only on the back, but also can make you very dizzy. So we don't want to do that. And now we'll come into our mountain pose, just to kind of center ourselves like we do seated, but I consider mountain pose kind of my standing centering pose. So the chair is behind me, the back is almost touching me. And then for this class, we usually do mountain pose with some space between the feet, although classically mountain pose, we have the legs and feet joining. So if you're able to join the legs and feet, by all means, you can do that. But otherwise, we're going to practice with a little distance. Just gives you more stability when you have the feet hip distance. So start with your fingertips on the back of the chair. And again, you want your palms facing forward, knuckles facing back. And this really invites the shoulders to sit back. It invites the chest to lift and spread. And then do your best to take the tailbone toward the front body so that, again, we're not shortening the lumbar spine. And try to put your skull right above your spine. Firm your legs, which means your muscles are contracting. You're squeezing your thigh muscles. And try to fully extend your legs, so no bent knees. And then without losing the lift and spread of your chest, just release the chair and hopefully your hands align right outside the outer thighs near the hips. And then close your eyes. If you need your eyes open for balance, you can just soften your eyes a little bit or look down a little bit. And again, just like we did seated, bring your attention to the feet. We really want to sense that we don't stop where the floor begins. Like maybe imagine a mirror image of yourself beneath the feet. And then also try to really direct the weight over the soles of the feet so that it becomes really more evenly spread out, including all 10 toe pads, including all 4 ball mounds, and including the heels. And specifically in the heels, make sure you're evenly weighted to the inner and outer heels. Some of us roll out, some of us pronate. It's the term for kind of rolling out or in on the feet. So try to be balanced on the inner and outer heels. And so we spend a lot of time with this pose because this pose is the fundamental pose behind all the other standing poses. So we really want to feel some amount of mastery in this pose. And then as you're ready, let the eyes come open if they were closed. And just loosen the limbs. So maybe shake the arms and kick the feet and just kind of relax the limbs. So I don't know if we'll get to all 4, but we have 4 different posture pairings we're going to look at today. And we're going to start with the warrior 2 and the side angle pose. So we're going to work with the seat of the chair off to the right side. And then you're going to take your legs wide. The ideal spacing is that when we bend the right knee, it's going to be above the right ankle. So we don't want it to go beyond that. So if it goes beyond, that's a clue that you might need a little more distance between your feet. I know for some of us that's, something we're working on. It's not quite there yet. So just do your best to have your spacing kind of generous. And then we're looking at alignment of the right heel intersecting with the arch of the left foot. That's the good alignment here. Okay, so we're going to take our hands to our hips and just bring that right knee over the ankle. And then you're actively turning your torso from right to left because you're probably going to feel that the torso wants to turn to the right. So we don't want to do that. We want to keep our torso really facing this long edge of the mat. As you correct that though, your right knee probably drooped in. Did everybody kind of notice that? So we don't want to do that either. So we want to turn the torso, but we want to keep the knee above the ankle. Okay, so it's kind of some coordinating we have to do. Torso is squaring up with the hips, the shoulders and hips, but the knee, if you look at it, is still pointing at your toes. It's not knocking, it's not dropping inward. Okay, so that's kind of the things we're trying to keep. So this, what we just talked about, is going to still be true when we go to the second pose. But let's complete this pose first. So stretch the arms. This is warrior 2. So some of you are already a little pitched, like you're preparing for second pose. No, there's a book on your head. So try to keep your torso upright and don't pitch the spine yet. Keep it vertical. So we finish this pose looking over the right fingertips. You're still trying to revolve your torso from right to left, and you're still pressing your right knee toward the small toe side so that it doesn't knock. Okay, so that's warrior 2. Keep your legs and lower half exactly like it is, but now you get to let your torso lengthen to the right. You're going to take your right hand onto the chair seat, and you're going to take your left hand onto your hip. So you're still revolving your torso from right to left. You're still squeezing your knee, your right knee to the small side of the foot. So those things are continuing on even though we're in another pose. So you can keep your hand here if it's working for you well. The finishing piece is stacking this left arm up and then moving the arm to sit next to the ear. So you can see that when we move the arm that way, it continues, we've created one beautiful side angle. So that's why the pose is named side angle pose, because of this shape we've created with the side body. Now again, see if you can return to the first pose, keep your legs as they are. Inhale, put your torso back in a vertical position. Turn your eyes back to look over the right fingertips once you're up. Revolve your torso from right to left and keep squeezing that right knee to toward the right small toe. Good. Now straighten the leg. Let that quadriceps take a break. You can turn your right toes in and you might heel toe walk your feet back together to bring your legs back underneath you. And we'll try that to the second side. So again, the first step is to spread the legs and to align the left heel. If you drew a line, it would run into the arch of the right foot. You have 90-degree toes pointing off to the left with the left foot. And you have about a 15 to 45-degree angle on the right foot. Okay, and then we're going to bend the knee, do our best to keep the knee above the ankle. Check out your knee in relationship to your left toes. Hopefully they're lining up and you don't see the knee drifting inside the big toe. That would be a little bit of a misalignment. And then grab your hips and just help your torso rotate from left to right. Make sure that knee doesn't move with it. So you're just turning the trunk. We want to get the shoulders and the hips really facing this long edge of the mat, somehow keeping that left knee pressing out toward the small toe. Finally, stretch the arms wide. Relax your shoulders, descend your shoulder blades. Look over your left fingertips. Keep turning your torso, the abdomen, the waistline, the side ribs from left to right. Keep squeezing your left knee toward the small toe side of the foot. And without changing the lower half, you're now going to stretch your arm toward that chair seat, place it under the shoulder. Take your right hand to your hip. Still turning your torso from left to right, still trying to press the left knee toward the small toe, and maybe deciding it would be advantageous to the pose to add the arm if it only kind of decreases the feeling of integrity in the pose. Then we would keep the hand on the hip. So you always have to be discerning in your practice. Only you know what's best for your pose. Of course, I can see sometimes if it was a bad move, but ultimately you should know or start to sense what's best for you. Okay, so we're going to see if we can maintain the legs once again as we inhale ourselves back to warrior two. Make sure your torso comes back to a vertical position. Look over those left fingertips with soft eyes. And then push the floor away through the left foot to begin to straighten the leg. And then help your toes come forward again. You can take hold of your hips and you might move the feet back together, just heels and toes, heels and toes, heels and toes. So let's just pause and return to mountain pose, just kind of being with the breath, being with the leftover sensation. Every pose has kind of a signature. So when we take these pauses between poses, we can start to really understand the poses and their effects on the body, mind, nervous system, breath. And just coming into your mountain pose and just holding the pose, being with the breath. So one of the clues you can open your eyes that the yoga is working is there's more stillness in your mountain pose. And it's not a bad thing if you're not finding that. It's just a way to kind of test your progress. And we don't really get to choose what we find, but it's a nice thing to notice if there's more stability from as you continue to practice. So we're going to move on to our next two poses, which are the triangle pose and then the balancing half moon pose. So we'll start with the right side again. So the chair seat will be off to your right. And it's the same setup for the legs and feet, except we don't bend the knee. So we have the same wide stance. We have the right toes turning out, the left toes turning in, the intersection of the heel to the arch. We have to do the same work to revolve the trunk back to facing the broad side of the mat without the knee turning in. And then we're going to take the arms up, straight up, and then open so your palms face the ceiling. And with the palms facing the ceiling, just sensing the upper arms and how they feel this active spiral kind of from the front arm to the back of the arm. Try to keep that as you rotate just from your elbows to your fingertips. So turning the palms down now. So with these contrasting spirals in the arms happening. Big inhale here. And then exhale, you're going to lengthen toward the chair seat again and attempt to put your hand right under the line of the shoulder. And you can always add height under the hand. If your chair feels too far away, you could put a block there or something else like a book. And then again, you're going to hold the hip with your free hand for now. So it's the same kind of work that we had in the previous poses. We want to revolve the trunk away from the floor toward kind of the middle space in the room and eventually the ceiling. And we also want to keep track of that right knee not turning in. So how do we do that here without the knee being bent? You're just going to imagine the flesh of your right thigh and just try to roll the inner thigh up and the outer thigh down. And when we get really good at yoga, we can start to manipulate flesh. And a lot of the poses can be perfected with movement of the flesh. So it's kind of fun to start to work with the flesh moving. So stack the arm as the final piece. You decide if that's going to be helpful for you. So the transition to this pose with the chair is very awkward. So we're not going to like fluidly transition into it. So I'm actually going to have you bring the arm down again. And we're going to transition a little bit to get prepared for the half moon. So you're going to be fully standing on your right leg. Your left foot is just kind of there. It's weightless, so you don't need to step down on the left foot. And the right hand is like a pillar, so it's right underneath your shoulder. And again, add some height if you need to, if it feels too far away. You're going to lift that leg to any degree. Eventually, it will be level with the floor. And you really want your standing arm and leg to be vertical. So if they're not vertical, the pose will feel very wonky. So the same work is here, trying to move the torso from right to left and trying to keep your knee tracking with the toes rather than turning in. And the knee, I promise you, will try to turn in, and that's going to destabilize you. So if you can work with the flesh of your right thigh turning from right to left, you're gonna benefit. Okay. Lower down the leg, turn to face your chair, and do a little downward dog release here. So walk yourself back. And just try to stretch both sides of the trunk nice and long. Let your head relax, let your neck relax. And then you're going to start to pour some weight into your hands and walk yourself toward chair. And then remember to use your stomach muscles to help you come up. Okay. All right. So if anybody ever wants to pause and ask a question, I know you're all muted, but just like make a big gesture because I love questions, and they oftentimes everybody else is having a similar curiosity. So nobody hates questions in my experience. So we're going to try the other side. So we have that left foot turned out, we have the right toes slightly turned in. And again, here you might already feel that kind of want or desire in your body, just kind of pitch. We're starting with the upright torso for triangle pose as we get into it. So make sure you're vertical. We'll take the arms up and then open again. Really feeling the action of the upper arm, keeping that and revolving from your elbows to your fingertips. Palms down. Big inhale. Exhale, lengthen toward the chair seat and take your hand onto the chair seat so it's right in line with your shoulder. This creates that really nice structure. This is why we see pillars in rooms are vertical or not at an angle. And then you can take your hand to your hip just to establish a little deeper rotation of the torso, turning from left to right, but really working that knee. You can feel when you turn the torso that the knee wants to turn with it. We have to resist that. So you can roll your left inner thigh up, your outer left thigh down. And then maybe add the arm, cherry on top. So it's not necessary, but if it's in your best interest to raise the arm, it will increase kind of the overall good feeling of the pose. And if it takes away from the good feeling of the pose, that's a clue that it's not yet ready. Good. So we're going to transition to half moon. So we'll return the hand to the hip if you did elevate the arm. And we're going to try to get this left leg underneath us so it's a vertical standing leg. Okay. And then the right foot will take less weight. You're just kind of having the toes touching down, just hanging idle for a moment. You're also going to be on your left arm vertically. And then you'll raise the leg any amount. This is our balancing half moon pose. This is a really challenging pose. So if you're feeling a level of difficulty here, just believe me, that's a big piece of it. And you don't have to fight with it. You can modify, you can lower the leg a little bit. You can play with it. It's a very challenging pose. And then you're going to lower the leg and gently turn to face your chair again. And then walk back and come back to your downward facing dog. So when we're balancing on one leg like that, it's hard to talk about the finer points, but the similarities between the triangle pose and the half moon pose is that same work of turning the torso and keeping the knee established with alignment with the toes so that we don't destabilize our only standing leg. I'll start to move forward, step the feet in, and bring yourself up. Good. And you can move the chair back to the right. We're going to have the back of the chair helping us for the next set, so we can just leave that, but then we'll come into mountain pose. So just put yourself in alignment. Sometimes it's helpful to think about the back body against a wall, and especially making sure that the shoulders and the back of the head would meet that wall. Try to relax the shoulders down away from the ears. Keep the legs firm, the muscles really hugging onto the bones. Envision your pelvic bowl full of liquid and try to keep the tilt of the pelvic bowl neutral, meaning you're not tilting down or up, forward or back. And then gently release the pose, and you can shake the limbs loose if you want. And we'll turn to face the chair now. So we'll do warrior 1 and warrior 3, and we're again looking for kind of common denominator pieces of warrior 1 that really help warrior 3. So you're going to step your right foot under the chair, the left foot back. And you want to make sure, remember that we're not trying to be on a balance beam here. So your right foot should be more in alignment with the right chair leg. Your left foot should be more in alignment with the left chair leg, so that we allow enough space for the width of the hips to really square with the chair. So you're going to bend the right knee so that you can put the knee in alignment with the ankle. And you're going to do your best to not let your torso tilt forward. So you're keeping the book on your head idea. So how do we do that? We take the tailbone deep into the front body, keep the shoulders back. Good. And so there's two things that I want to point out right now that are going to carry over to the next pose. Number one is your left leg stays powerfully extended. So if your left leg is kind of quasi-straight, do your best to fully straighten it. And this is going to be true for the next pose, Warrior Three. The next piece is I want you to look straight ahead, roll the shoulders back, and feel the lift and spread of your chest. This is also going to be maintained when we come into Warrior Three. So these two pieces are going to continue into the next pose, the fully extended left leg and the lift and spread of the chest. Okay, so go ahead and relax yourself out of that pose. Pour more weight into your right foot. Step your left foot in a little bit. Your right leg's going to stay directly underneath you. Your fingertips are going to stay on the chair. And I'm going to just have you step your left big toe back behind you. So you're only on the left big toe. You're kind of prepping for the next pose. Fully extend your left leg, meaning there's not any bend in the knee, or minimize the bend in the knee. Some of us need a little bit. Okay, your chest is lifted and spread. Inhale, and on your exhale, raise the left leg any amount and tilt the torso down toward the chair, but don't let your chest cave in. This is Warrior Three. One day we don't have our hands on the chair, but that's not today. Inhale, come up and out of it. Touch down with the big toe and step that foot back underneath you. So hopefully that I know it was a quick, again, when we're on one leg, we're not going to spend 4 minutes there, but hopefully you got to feel some of the similarities between 1 and 3, Warrior 1 and 3. So we'll just take a little pause here, let go of the chair, standing in mountain pose. And you don't have to do anything with your breath. You're just allowing your breath to become smooth and even again, which it will do on its own. It's very good at self-regulating. So the one thing you can do to support that is just be a big enough container. Don't make the breath any quieter. Don't make it any smaller. If you're panting, you're panting. So let yourself pant. That's the only way we can regulate. And then we'll check out side 2. So we're going to try the left foot under the chair, the right foot stepping back. This is Warrior 1. The foot is grounded, the back foot, so we're not off the heel. The left knee is bent and it's stacked above the ankle. And so, Karen, I'm glad you came back. I know you probably had some technical stuff maybe, but the pieces of these two poses that we're really trying to emphasize that are kind of common denominators are the back leg being really actively straight and actively active. So it's not a passive leg. It's going to be very actively straight. The other piece is the chest stays lifted and spread in these two poses. So you want to look straight ahead, put your shoulders back. Remember the chest moves forward, but we also feel like a spreading across the chest. Okay, so this is Warrior 1. Now we're going to transition to Warrior 3, but just like we did in an earlier set, we're not going to do it fluidly or seamlessly. We're going to straighten the left leg, step in closer with your right foot, and put your left leg directly beneath you. So it's not at an angle. You're fully weight bearing into your left leg. Take your right big toe back behind you and just put the right big toe down and feel the lift and spread of the chest. Fully straighten your right leg. On an inhale, just kind of lift your whole spine up. On your exhale, lift the right leg and tilt the torso toward the chair. Keep your chest forward and spread. Keep an actively straight, reaching out right leg behind you. It's not dangling from the low back, in other words. That would be the worst thing to do. So reach out through the right heel, keep the leg straight, keep your chest lifted, and come down any amount. So eventually we look like a capital letter T in this pose. Inhale, you're gonna come out of it. And step the foot underneath you, and your feet are right underneath you. You're back in mountain pose. You can let go of the chair. Put yourself into alignment, soften the eyes or close the eyes. Let your feet take root into the floor. And just imagine you've been hung up by a thick rope through the top of the head. So it's supporting the buoyancy of the spine, but everything, the periphery of the spine, just see if you can sense some weight. And again, we're just working with these unions of opposites in yoga all the time. All right, so I believe we have time for our last set, meaning we're going to cover all 4 sets that I had planned today. We're going to use the chair seat again. You can just, again, keep it over here. We don't have to move the chair anymore, except to turn it around. We're going to use the seat. So the last 2 poses are the Parsvottanasana, which is intense side stretching pose. I don't like the name of that pose, but carrying into revolving triangle pose. So we'll just study how they relate to each other. So we'll put ourselves in the first pose and then we'll talk about the common factors here. So the right foot goes under the chair, the left foot steps back. And again, you want to have your right foot more close to the right chair leg and the left foot in alignment more with the left chair leg so that you have width between your feet. You're going to hold the chair with your hands so that the arms are right underneath the shoulders. And then you're going to imagine you have a little teacup resting on your sacrum, because we don't want to have the right sacrum lower than the left sacrum, which can happen here. So I want you to lift your right buttock up and roll your left buttock down a little bit so we're level across the hips and the sacrum. So the common pieces here, there's a lot of them, but we'll just talk about a couple. Compaction in the hips. So squeeze both hips to midline like you have a big ace bandage or a big belt around your hips. This is going to stabilize you so that you can bring nice mobility to your spine. Okay, so we're going to take the first pose, just kind of coming in closer to the right leg. You might bend your elbows. You might be able to put your forearms down. Your body will tell you. And you're aligning your torso with your right leg. You're not centered. You're over the right leg with your torso. Think about your hips hugging together. You might feel like you're kind of pushing out into your left hip. So suck the left hip bone toward midline. The legs will stay exactly the same for revolving triangle, and the hip compaction will stay the same. So you're going to come back to your hands, and you're going to put your left hand print on the chair right underneath the sternum, so in line with the sternum. You're going to hug your hips together and take your right hand to your right hip. And with the legs firm and straight with your hips squeezing together, push into your hand on the chair seat and revolve your chest to look to the right. Your face as well, you can look to the right. So the cherry on top of course is the arm coming up, but that's not necessary. For a lot of us, it would destabilize us. So you might test it, you might know already that's not a good choice. You might know it's a great choice. So do what you need to do here to finish your pose. And then gently turn back to face the chair. Place your right hand down. Put more weight into your right foot to bring the left foot forward. And then bend your knees, squeeze your stomach muscles toward the spine and come up. Nice work. So last but not least, our second side of our 4th set of poses here. So we're going to keep the left toes under the chair. The right foot will step back. The legs are straight for these ones. And the hips are square. So if your hips are headlights, we want to make sure the right hip is as forward as the left hip. You're going to bring your torso kind of over the floor, over the chair, and your hands down. We're trying to align our chest with our left leg now to look at the left leg. Squeeze your hips together. And then any amount, you're gonna bow down toward the left leg, bend the elbows, let the head release. You might come to your forearms. The legs stay firm and straight. The hips stay compacting toward midline. And now you're gonna find your way back to your hands. And you're gonna put your right hand directly in line with your chest. So it's kind of in the center of your chair seat, probably. Move the hips toward one another. Take your left hand onto your left hip. And now pushing into your feet, use the power of your legs, use your hand pressing into the chair. Start to turn your chest to the left. Squeeze that left hip bone back to the center of the body. Your face is looking off to the left. Maybe the arm comes up, maybe it doesn't. This is our revolving triangle pose. We did revolving triangle pose. Sorry, we did triangle pose earlier. So now this is just the revolving version of it. And then on exhale, you're going to turn back and touch down with that left hand. And then help yourself step the feet together. And then gently come up. Good. So you're going to put your chair in front of you. We're going to come into a wide standing fold, which kind of starts to signal that we're starting to come towards the end of the class now. We're just going to kind of quiet down the nervous system. So you have generous spacing between your feet beyond the width of the hips. Hopefully a lot beyond, but for those of us developing this, just beyond the width of the hips. Your toes stay in front of the heels, so we don't turn out the toes here. When your toes stay in front of the heels, again, those knees want to turn in. We don't want that. So look at your knees and try to have your knees looking more at your toes than at each other. How do we do that? Again, that's the rotation of the flesh of the thighs. So the inner thighs rolling towards the outer thighs. Okay, so you're going to come forward and you can rest on your forearms. You can rest on your hands with soft elbows. You might put some props between your hands or arms in the chair. So make it work for you. But right away, you want to make sure you're even over your feet. So it's as if the backs of the legs are against the wall. We want to be even. We don't want to be hanging out in the heels or the toes all imbalance. We want balance over the feet. The head relaxes down. And if you're doing it well, then it should be soothing. So if it's not soothing, something should change. And now begin to lift your head and begin to move your hands fully onto the chair. Walk the feet in with heels and toes, heels and toes. And one last time, you're going to come up just so that you can stand up and put the chair behind you to have a seat. So we'll take a wide stance here with the feet. Once we're seated, you'll want to sit way back on the chair so you have a nice amount of chair seat underneath you. You can keep your arms on your thighs and bow your head, or you might be able to bring your hands down and let your head release down. If you have any desire to go deeper, you could always grab the front or even the back chair legs and kind of draw yourself in more. And now gently, you're gonna come up slowly. Before we come into a quiet sitting position, I just want to do one final twist. So you can either catch your left elbow inside your left knee or outside your right knee. So outside your right knee is a little bit deeper. And then you're going to take your hands together. This is called prayer position in yoga. So just flatten the palms together and try to put your forearms in one straight line. So we're in a straight line, not letting the arms take an angle. So try to put the forearms in one single line. And then you're going to simultaneously try to bring your right buttock more heavily back into your chair seat. You're going to try to bring your sternum towards your thumbs. And you're going to try to keep lengthening the spine from the tailbone out through the crown of the head. You're going to start to gently transition to the other side. So you can rest your arms. You might take the right elbow inside the right knee. Again, you might go farther and go to the outer left knee. Put your palms flat together, align the forearms. And then using the leverage of that arm against your thigh to help you revolve your spine, bring your sternum toward your thumbs. Try to bring some weight back into your left buttock. And after an exhalation, you inhale out of it because we want to keep the length on the spine when we come out. Go ahead and just use the back of the chair. Make sure you're sitting comfortably in the seat of the chair, that the feet are underneath the knees, but you can widen the stance if you need to. You really want to kind of tap into making your legs as passive as they can be. Your hands will be restful on your thighs. So palms down is more quieting, meditative. Palms up is more kind of receptive. So they both have good benefits. So you can kind of decide which feels right today. And then make sure the skull is right above the spine. Close the eyes and just invite the jaw to relax. The abdomen to relax. Let the skin of the face soften from the forehead to the chin. Try to soften behind the eyes. The area between the eyebrows, it's one that can accumulate a lot of tension. It's just smoothing out the brow line. Softening your tongue and your throat. So rather than doing, we're really just undoing tensions that have kind of wound themselves up in the body. Letting go. We'll see if for these last few seconds here, you can try to bring a sense of full body awareness, global awareness, just kind of feeling the entire body at once. The yoga has given us a little bit more feeling and sensation in the body. Take a deep breath. Just let it flow out. Start to bring a little gentle movement in through the fingers, toes, wrists, ankles, head, neck, knees, elbows. And let's sit just for a moment away from the back of the chair. Bring your hands together in front of your heart. Again, close your eyes. When we soften the face, sometimes it feels like we're smiling. Let's take a moment to invite a sense of gratitude into our hearts. Take a deep breath together through the nose. And let it go. The place within me that I know to be divine, I honor that place within each of you. Namaste. Right. So if you came a little bit after I started, I just want to make sure I have everybody on my list here. So let's see, we have, I think it's Laura. Oh, and Jill and Sue. Okay, I did see you guys. Some of your screens are really little. So we have Jill, Sue, Laura, and Shar. Okay, I think I got everybody. Thank you all for being here. I'll see you next week.